So, I mean, when you're choosing stories from real life, I mean, all of history is at your disposal. When do you know that, oh, that's the one, I got to do that?
Right. Um, I like to say I don't choose the stories, but the stories choose me. So I'm just minding my own business and something falls in my lap and I can't like ignore it. I need to know what that is and I need to know immediately. Um, the best case, I wrote a book called Knockout Games, and that came about because I was doing school visits in St. Louis. And, I was doing a bunch of them over several days. And I was with a person who was taking me around, and we were going to this middle school. And right before we walked into the school one morning, we were going to be there all day. She was like, "Oh, something happened at the school a few days ago." And it's like, "What?" It's like, "Well, SWAT teams pulled up in the big trucks and their full-on gear and riot gear and stuff, and they basically stormed the school and they arrested 8 students. This is a middle school." And it was like, "Oh, okay." It's like, and they wanted you to come there because, I mean, the staff was having a hard time dealing with the thing that was going on there. But everyone had responded to Yummy, so they felt that you could talk to these kids, like, and we're literally walking in at 7:30 in the morning, right? Yeah, it's like, okay, sure. And we go in, and I'm doing my thing, but I'm really interested in hearing what's going on from their perspective. And the stories they're telling me are just like, oh, like they look and sound like any student I would meet anywhere in the country, but the stories they're telling me really make me sit up. And by the end of the day, I was kind of like, that all this, it sounds like a book. And, the basic feedback was like, well, yeah, well, why do you think you're here? It's like they basically wanted me to write their story. And even though I was in the middle of another project that had a deadline and was already under contract, when I got back home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I immediately knew how it was going to open. I had a scene. So I thought, well, I'll just write it down, get it out of my head, and then I'll go back to work on the thing I'm supposed to wrote. And then the next day, it's like, oh, now I know what the scene would be after that. But I'll just write that. Just a quick thing, get out. And that kept going on. And then basically, I just ended up writing that straight through without even planning to, without even trying. And it just poured out like huge amounts of pages, very like much quicker than I ever wrote anything. Just like boom. And I didn't edit myself. I didn't worry about structure. Just let it ride. And, about 80% of that made the final piece, and 20% was going back and like once I got to the end and seeing what it really was, like going back to the beginning and reshaping it a bit, and guiding it and massaging it. But that book also had this by far the shortest revision period as well, because normally my process is very organic, so a lot of the writing is the rewriting and just like drafts and drafts and drafts and drafts and shaping, forming. But that one was very like boom, done. So, and I can't explain it, and then I look at it afterwards, like I print it out, and I really don't. I mean, intellectually, I know where it came from, but I look at it and I don't know where it came from, right? I can't explain it. I think my one talent is just like being able to spot a good story when I see it.
Well, I can't argue with the results, so that must be so.